When was the last time you felt spiritually alive, where you felt vibrant, expansive, and your purpose, your passion was pulsing through you? Being spiritually alive is about growing spiritually and making progress towards who you want to be, what you want to do, what you want to have. Because you are meant to thrive, not just survive and go through the motions of day-to-day living, of doing what you think you have to or you should do. Do you feel that way? I know people often do. Hi, I'm Deepa Lou, and I call myself the creative mystic. In the last video, I shared with you what creates spiritual exhaustion and drains your energy. And today, I want to share with you what you need to be in place so that you can actually stop those drains and actually begin to be spiritually alive and thrive, to awaken your divine self. That divine self that's always present within you, but you aren't able to access it because you feel so spiritually exhausted. Do you feel that way? So I hope you want to thrive. Do you want to thrive? Do you want to be your divine self? I hope you said yes, because you are hardwired. It is in your DNA to thrive, to grow, to be spiritually alive, to be awake in your divine self. Okay, because that next stage of awakening is always there. And yes, I said awakening because you are hardwired for that awakening. Okay, for yourself to be awakened. Now you can see it in the desires you have in your life. You desire more, right? Because you want more, you want to be, whether that more is more peace or more money or more trust in your following your intuition. But whatever the more is, whatever desire is, it's your DNA showing that you have a desire for awakening. And people talk about awakening often as if it's like a flip of a light switch, that all of a sudden, you suddenly become enlightened and you stay there forever. But the truth is, awakening for most is a process that happens a little bit by a little bit by a little bit. And in order for you to continue that process, you need to have the right environment. There's 4 pillars you need, okay? We're going to talk about one of them today. And I recommend, if you want to hear all of this that I have to say about it and help you in your awakening process, to please subscribe, give a thumbs up, turn on your notifications so that, when the next video comes out, you'll be notified, okay? Because awakening is a process. And the reason why people don't know it is because they don't know how to recognize the signs. So today we're going to talk about one of the pillars. There's 4 pillars to awakening. Today we're going to talk about one of the pillars, okay? And within each of those pillars, there are elements that you need so that that pillar supports your awakening, okay? So, and one of the reasons why being able to recognize when you're making progress towards your awakening is because if you don't know the signs, what usually happens, right? People give up, right? You probably have given up. So if you've done some spiritual practices, I'm assuming because you're here, you're a mystic, a spiritual seeker, someone who wants spiritual growth, someone who wants to become awakened, or at least curiosity about it. You may not believe yet it can happen for you. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about in a future video, okay? That programming that stops you from believing it can happen for you, okay? So we're going to talk about that. So that awakening process, the reason why so many people give up is because they don't know how to recognize when they're making progress. Is that you? Like you've started and stopped, you've done feast or famine when trying to do different spiritual practices, and then you think, oh, it's not working, so you give up. Well, that's because you don't recognize the signs of that you're becoming awakened, that you're making progress on that path of awakening. And so we're going to talk about that throughout the different videos I do, okay? So please, if you like what you're hearing, also be a blessing in the world and share this with somebody that could benefit from it, because, that's about why, one of the reasons why we're on the planet is to share the wisdom, the things that truly help us expand and grow into our awakening, okay? So again, I talked about last video. If you haven't seen it, it's about spiritual drains. Please check it out. But I on that video, I talked about what drains you, what makes it so that you're spiritually exhausted. And today I'm going to talk about one of the pillars that are going to help stop that spiritual drain and help your awakening process. Because unless you are a yogi, a mystic, living up in the Himalayas in a cave by yourself, the elements I'm going to talk to you about today are affecting you. Okay. And we're going to talk about these elements in your environment that are affecting you. There's 4 elements within that consider like your outer environment that you need on the path of awakening so that you don't fall off of it, so that you can continue the process of your awakening. Okay. So let's get started on sharing with you what those 4 elements are. So since we've established you aren't a yogi up in the Himalayas sequestering yourself away in a cave, you're going to be around what? People. People are part of your outer environment, and those people are energy, and you are energy, and that energy of another person will either lift you up or tear you down. So here's the question you have to ask yourself. Are you, or are the people that you spend the most time with, do they lift you up or do they tear you down? Do they help you expand into your next stage of awakening into your divine self? Or do they like make you feel like you're less than? Or they look at negativity that slows you down? Okay. So what you need is the first element, okay, that you need is people who honor your sacred self. People who honor your sacred self. It could be one person that gives you what I call sacred witnessing. Now you might be thinking, what's sacred witnessing? Sacred witnessing is all about seeing you as the divine soul, the divine being that you truly are, and holding those higher aspirations that you have, that they are possible for you. So if there's any aspiration you have, whether that aspiration is maybe you want to develop your spiritual gifts, you want to get more intuitive downloads, you want to trust them more, or maybe like me, you want to connect with your spirit guides and get that communication from them, because what I always tell people is your spirit guides, you have them all around you. Your spirit guides are here to help you have faster process, overcome the challenges more easily, more quickly, have more flow in your life, because they want to give you that higher consciousness guidance. Because when we get into that lower consciousness place, which is our subconscious programming that keeps us stuck and going around, they give us something. Okay, so you want somebody who can give you that sacred witnessing. So I want to share with you the first time I ever had that sacred witnessing. And at that time when I got it, I did not even know that that's what was happening. But was in my 20s, early 20s, got introduced to this Buddhist practice, and it fit me perfectly back then, because I was agnostic, where I was always questioning, is there a God? Is there not a God? Because I didn't grow up in a really spiritual family. Okay. So Buddhism didn't talk about a God. So it helped me like be able to like, okay, let me go check this out. And so I started to do this Buddhist practices, but I was really inconsistent. Have you been there? Or maybe you're there right now, where you like have some desire, but you try it and then you don't do it, and you try it and you don't do it. Well, that's kind of what was happening for me. I was like, sometimes practicing, sometimes not. Out of a week, I might practice once or twice, there was no consistency. And I won't even say that I was doing it even when I did it once or twice with the right kind of focus. Okay, so I was invited to go talk to this spiritual leader that had been on the Buddhist path for, at that point, she'd been on it, I think, like 25 years. Okay, and she sat with me and talked with me. And she said, well, how are things going with you? I know you're new to this Buddhist path. How are things going with your practice? And I said, fits and feasts. I do it a little bit and then I don't do it. And I do a little bit and I don't do it. And she looked at me and she listened and she heard it all and everything I had to say. And she said, well, I don't know you that well because I've just met you, but I can tell you, if you practice consistently for at least 90 days. And she goes, and I really recommend do it for a year, because then you have a longer span of time to be able to look at all the progress you're going to make. She goes, I can guarantee that you will see an amazing difference. That if you actually practice every day for a year, that your life will be transformed. And at that time, my life was not that great. That's one of the reasons why I went to the Buddhist practice, was I was hanging around people who were partying all the time, doing drugs, and I was unhappy. And I was searching for something that could help give me some meaning, help me get out of this place where I was living with somebody who was a drug addict and other things, that I wanted something different. And so when I heard that, I thought, I'm going to do this. She saw like that Buddha nature in me, the divine self in me, even though I couldn't see it. I didn't have any hope it could make a difference, because if I really believed it would, I would have been doing it every day, right? And I wasn't. So I didn't have that belief. But her sacred witnessing of my divine self, my Buddha self, and that she knew that it would happen, it could happen if I just be consistent, that I then became consistent for 1 year. And she did not lie. Okay, my life totally transformed from living in a dumpy apartment with a bunch of people who partied and drug addicts, to moving out of that, getting a nice apartment, getting a job, a better paying job. Like I was making twice the income with the better paying job, and had just totally transformed my life. And I stopped partying and doing drugs and everything, and it just totally changed me. Okay. But it was the sacred witnessing of seeing my divine self that helped encourage me, because the people around you either, like I say, lift you up or tear you down. And most people, what they tend to do is tell you why you can't do something, or why that won't work, or that's not logical. Is that the people you're around? You need at least one person that can be your sacred witness. Okay. Now, that's one of the things I do, like when I do my individual mentoring coaching, is I become the person's sacred witness. So you need to have someone who is witnessing your sacred self, who upholds and helps you in your higher aspirations, whatever those higher aspirations are. All right. That's element one, at least one person. Now, of course, if you have a lot more than one, that's even better. But just one person, that one person who saw me, who gave me sacred witnessing to that my Buddha nature, she knew would come forth and would transform my whole life from where it was to what I was desiring, would make a difference. That energy, and I only got to speak to her once. Now, I will tell you, most people need that sacred witnessing, a reminder, more often than one. But I had another sacred witness in that, as I got that first sacred witnessing in a partner at that time, who she was very encouraging, always helping support my higher aspirations. So I actually had two. But the first one that made that difference was that one. The second person who became my sacred witness came after that, when I made that first initial commitment. But that sacred witnessing, to have one or two people, I would say you probably need more than one, and it would be one that you can connect with on a regular basis, not just once in your lifetime and never again. That would help you, because I had two people. I'm realizing this now. There were actually two people in the sacred witnessing that really helped me in the beginning of my spiritual journey, back in my 20s, my early 20s. Okay. So that's element one, having somebody, at least one person, people that are sacred witnesses for your divine self. All right. So now let's talk about element two. So the second element you need in your environment is a community of like-minded spiritual souls. If you're a spiritual seeker, a mystic, you need other spiritual souls that help create the synergy effect, what I call the synergy effect. See, the word synergy is defined as two or more people, organizations, substances interacting that produce a combined greater effect. Okay. So what I see in the synergy effect with people and having a spiritual community is it helps your path of awakening. It helps speed it up. It helps keep you on it, because it's very easy to get off the path. of awakening if you get discouraged because maybe you don't see the signs. So when you actually start to have a community of like-minded souls, now they don't necessarily have to be on the exact same spiritual path, but they have to be of the exact same spiritual mindset, okay, of honoring you, that have similar aspirations. Because when they have those similar aspirations, that it creates the synergy effect. Now, it doesn't mean you have to have the same aspiration of, oh, I want to be a healer and learn Reiki, okay? It means that they are on this path of awakening. They have the aspiration of growing spiritually, of wanting to expand into their divine self, however way they're doing it, okay? So you want people that have that similar desire, that similar focus. And because of that similar desire and focus, there's that synergy effect where when you bring two or more people together, that it gives you a more exponential effect. Okay. So if you're wanting help on staying on your path of awakening, having that community of spiritual souls will help you. Okay. Because if they have the goal of higher consciousness, if they're on the path of awakening, and maybe they're doing it slightly differently, but they can give you that energy, that effect, makes all the difference in the world. So I want to share with you my first time ever doing an 8-hour meditation. I had gotten introduced, and at that point was what I call interfaith. I believed in the that all spiritual paths have threads of truth in them, and that I look for those threads of truth. Okay, and so I had gotten introduced to the yogic path. Yogananda came tapping me on the shoulder over there, and realized after a while I'm a Buddhist yogi. And so, but when I got in, started doing the yogic path and going to some of the different meditations and everything, Christmas time came. And there was this thing where they did this 8-hour meditation. And I thought, ooh, I want to try this. But I was also in the, ooh, I want to try this. Oh, I don't know if I can do this. 8 hours, that's a long time. And so I thought, okay, I really want to do this. So they would bring in people together to meditate together on this 8-hour meditation. And so I went to it thinking, okay, I'm going to give this a go and we'll see how I do. And the 8-hour meditation was sitting quiet meditation. And also we would have points where we would do devotional chanting. So you're still in that same energy, but you get a chance to actually do some devotional chanting, singing, some people call it. But we were doing that, okay, for 8 hours. And I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it because in that 8 hours, you're not eating, right? Because what are you doing? You're meditating, doing devotional chanting. And I'm a person who tends to eat every about 3 hours. And so I was like kind of concerned, but I went, started off, did it, got through the day. I was like, woohoo, I completed the 8-hour meditation. But here's the thing. One, the synergy helped me complete the 8-hour meditation. But two, the benefit I got from it was I was on a spiritual high for a month. For 1 month, everything just bounced off me. Nothing fazed me. I was always in this great mood. Now, I'm human. So this is the thing about the path of awakening, I say, is that, we have points where we're up and we think it's never going to go away. And then something can kind of knock you down. And it's not necessarily you're off the path of awakening, but you see all of a sudden that you're not quite having as much joy. You're not quite feeling the way you were, so, but that 8-hour meditation gave me the synergy to be able to complete it and to gain the benefit of that spiritual high for a month where I just felt absolutely fabulous. So you need a community of like-minded souls that can help you with that saying where they say a rising tide lifts all boats. Now that was said because of like the economy, but it is true when it comes to the spiritual path of awakening, that when you're in an energy of where you have all these people with higher aspirations, with wanting a deeper connection with the divine, wanting to know their divine self and let that come forth, it helps your path of awakening. It gives you the synergy to keep going, the synergy to like oh, it doesn't feel quite as hard as I thought it was going to be. So you want to really get that you need a spiritual community, all right? Something that can help lift you up and give you that synergy effect, all right? So let's go to element 3 now. Okay. So element 3 is all about accountability in your truth. Okay, accountability in your truth. Now, what is that? You can have sacred witnessing from someone you know. Okay, and you may even have some community where, like, you get the synergy effect. Like, I went to that group meditation and helped lift me up. Okay, but accountability in my truth, what is it? That is where you have somebody who helps you to be accountable to, are you applying the spiritual truths in your life? Because it is so easy to study spiritual truth and not apply it in your life, in your own life. And you might think, oh, that's crazy. Okay, but when you see yourself going out there and listening to different spiritual teachers and reading books, do you catch yourself sometimes saying, I know that, or I already read this before, I already heard this before, right? It's that ego jumping in, thinking you don't need to hear this again, especially if you feel like rolling your eyes and not hearing it again, okay? So, but you need accountability in your truth. Now, the truth is here is that if you're hearing it again, you must need another level of applying it, or a deeper level of understanding about it. And so accountability in your truth is helping you, give you that reflection, or are you actually applying what you're studying? Are you actually doing what you say you desire? Because often people will say, I desire this, but then they're not making it a priority. So have you caught yourself doing that? Or maybe you say, gee, I really want to develop my intuition, or I really want to have a deeper connection with the higher power, God, Allah, Buddha, whatever your path is, okay? But you're not actually practicing and applying. And if you see something come back up, are you actually looking at that and saying, gee, what do I need to learn more deeply about this and apply it more effectively in my life since it's coming up? See, accountability and truth, when you have people around you that give you accountability, your life will move forward faster. Your spiritual growth will happen faster. Now, of course, you have to be ready for that accountability and truth, because to have somebody who will reflect back to you when you're off, you need to actually hear it, respect it, and go, let me put some thought to this of how I might apply this more, or how I can get myself back on track more, because they're basically reflecting to me that I'm not. And so that accountability is really important. It's one of the biggest things that I do when I do my individual mentoring clients, is that I give that reflection of, are they actually applying it? And in that accountability and truth, it's not about beating you up just because you're not doing it. It's about applauding you when you are doing it. See, because it's so easy for you to just minimize or diminish the progress you're making. It's one of the biggest reasons why people get off the path of awakening, is because they're diminishing or minimizing the progress that you're making. Do you do that? Do you minimize your results? Do you actually forget it? Because a lot of people do. They'll say, oh, I had this great experience. And a month later, a week later, they're like, oh, I never get any experiences, but they just had one, because minimize, diminish, oh, it didn't really make a difference. So the accountability is also in your truth of that you are making progress. Okay, when you're off and when you are, because you need that accountability and truth on both sides of it, so that you don't diminish and stop your path of awakening by convincing yourself that it's not working. Because I see people always diminish things, and I see, no, I can see right here, here's where it worked, here it's working. And so you need that accountability in the truth of where you are on your spiritual journey, and that you're making progress or that you're not making progress. And that when you've gotten off the path and when you need to get back on it. And when I say you've gotten off it, I don't mean that you just totally given up, but that you're strained because you're not applying what you've studied. All right. So then now let's get to element 4. So the fourth element you need in your environment is continuous spiritual nourishment. See, your spiritual body, your spiritual self needs ongoing nourishment just like your physical body does. So if you want to be physically healthy and fit, you can't just eat one healthy meal or just work out one time, right? You have to do it what? Continuously. It's you work out several times a week if you want to be physically fit. You eat healthy foods on a regular basis almost every day if you want to be healthy from the foods that you eat. Well, that same thing exists for your spiritual soul, your spiritual body. It needs that continuous nourishment. So you need somebody that can help you have deeper understanding of the spiritual truth, or at least the very, very minimum that you're doing spiritual study where you're maybe reading the same spiritual text over and over and over with the intent of having deeper understanding that, and so you can apply it more effectively in your life. Okay. Now, I listen to different spiritual teachers myself because I need my own spiritual nourishment. So you want to have your spiritual nourishment, okay, with maybe somebody who inspires you or a book that inspires you, and you have the actual intention of I'm nourishing my spiritual body, okay? Then you will also need to have spiritual practices that nourish your soul, your mind, your body. And so those could be things like, now, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to like give you just ideas, okay? So I do meditation. I do some pranayama, which are breath control techniques. I do devotional chanting sometimes. I can do, obviously, I do my creativity with the spirit guides, because they're always they're coming in and guiding me of what to do and how to create this portal so it's a blessing for you. So there are different things that nourish you. Okay. Also, I go out into nature and commune with nature as a spiritual nourishment. But you need continuous spiritual nourishment of something that helps you in your spiritual practices, that something that keeps it fresh so that you can have that same enthusiasm as you had as in the beginning. Because I know when I first started, oh, yay, 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 I was boom, 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 doing it, loving it. But as the years went on, it became more challenging to have that same enthusiasm. And so it would, be like this, where the enthusiasm. And so it's about checking in. Is the environment I'm in nourishing me, giving me continuous spiritual nourishment? So it could be we talked about the community, but you have to be aware of like what nourishes me spiritually. So for me, what nourishes me spiritually is painting my spirit guide portals, because after I'm done, I feel so joyful. Going out into nature and communing with nature, with spirit and nature, and talking to God, spirit in nature. Okay, that nourishes me. Doing spiritual studies, that gives me deeper understanding, that nourishes me. Because whenever I get an aha of something I'd read before, or a spiritual teacher's talking, and all of a sudden something clicks where I realize, here's a deeper understanding that I've been missing, that nourishes me. So all of those are different ways, just some of the ways that you want to have continuous spiritual nourishment. Now, obviously, one of the best ways to get continuous spiritual nourishment is belonging to some kind of spiritual community, but putting the practices in place so that you have the intention that you're going to get spiritual nourishment, continuous spiritual nourishment. Now, one of the things I'm doing is I'm going to be launching a membership that are going to be providing those environmental factors into it to help you in your path of awakening. And I'd love to see you if you'd like to get on my membership waitlist. I'm hoping to launch it at the time of this recording in the next month. And I'm doing this, it's near the end of, it's beginning December right now. And so I'd love it if you want to get on my membership wait list. Feel free to go there. It's deepaloo.com / let me put it up here. I have it up here. Here it is. It's deepaloo.com /membership-waiting-list. And depending on when you see this, I may have it launched already, but please, if you haven't, please get on my wait list. Founding members are going to get a lot of extra benefits, and I'll also get a special price for being a founding member, because as that founding member, you get to come in and give feedback of what you'd like to see in the community, because this is about, yes, I'm getting divine downloads of what to put in it, but also I want to get feedback of like what is going to support you in these 4 pillars that I'm going to be discussing. So that first pillar we just discussed was about your environment, and it was those 4 elements about your environment that are going to help you in your path of awakening. So please, again, if you haven't already subscribed, or if you like this, please give me a thumbs up, because I'm going to be releasing another video that's going to be about one of the other pillars. There's 4 pillars that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to talk about the second pillar. All right, so you have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a miraculous day. Blessings.